When I was 10, I had a dream to move to Los Angeles and become a doctor. And I was going to go to UCLA, and all this stuff is kind of happening. And I lived in Chicago. Then I moved to New York. I was born in South Carolina. I lived in New York for 11 years. I lived in Mexico for 6 years. And then finally, almost 10 years ago, I landed in Los Angeles. And I absolutely positively am not a doctor, but if food is medicine and the work that I'm doing is anything close to it, which it is, and me working with doctors, I found out how to actually become a doctor and live in Los Angeles and do it my way. So again, I figured out how to do it my own way, but that requires so much self-trust, because you've got to know that this is the best choice for you, because there's going to be so many people and things in your ear that might want to stray you away. And again, like I was saying earlier, when your last breath, you wishing that you had more time. But then the second one is that you wish you'd made different decisions and followed your heart and followed the best path for you, not particularly your heart, but really the best path for you to do what it is that you came here to do.
We are so grateful to be supported by these community champions: Sales MD, Team Friday, Realist Lab, Kiana Patterson, Diego Chavez, Jer Boucher, Heather Ryder, Janine Sua, Lily Roca, and Steve Kernan.
Hola, hello, hi, bienvenido, and welcome back, or welcome to Entrepreneurial Thinkers. As you may or may not know, at this point in the show, this is where I get to have the pleasure of having weekly conversations with some of the best and brightest entrepreneurial thinkers across all sectors and segments of society and industry. As we come together, no matter what it is we're talking about, our pursuit is to try to have our conversations help us leave the world a little bit better than we found it before we engaged in this conversation. Today, I'm super excited. This is throwing it all the way back, some pandemic memories, throwing it all the way back to the Clubhouse days for the OGs that remember Clubhouse, with my friend Lynette Astaire, who's just joining me from another part of Los Angeles here where we are. She is a wellness and longevity advisor to the stars. And by stars, I mean like hardworking entrepreneurs, creatives, executives, and folks just like us. So let me tell you a little bit about her before we welcome her to the show. She didn't just find longevity through like some trends or a career path. Frankly, I would venture to say longevity found her. She started her first food business at age 11. She learned fasting and cold plunges long before they were ever Instagram fads or biohacking was ever a thing. She's gone on to somehow blend art school, business, mysticism, and metabolic science into a career in which she helps high performers to build their best lives and then, frankly, their best businesses without burning out. She, to me, is this amalgam of complexities and simplicities in one person. She studied at the Art Institute of Chicago, my hometown, the School of Visual Arts in New York City, and Cornell University. And so in many ways, I think she thinks, and I'm sure you'll sense this today as we talk, she thinks like a business person, an artist, a chef, and a trusted advisor. From Grammy-winning artists to Silicon Valley founders, Lynette has worked with people who move culture, but often do so, frankly, a lot of us, I slow down because I can empathize with this statement, do so at the expense of their own health and wellness. From protecting them, she helps to protect them from their energy. She helps them almost to kind of age in reverse and stay in creative integrity with the pressure while the pressure is high. Her clients are busy people trying to build sustainable businesses, but she's trying to help them to become more sustainable human beings. And that's what she's here to talk to us about, is just how to build a sustainable, long, powerful, and healthy life. So with that, my friend, Lynette, welcome to Entrepreneurial Thinkers. It's awesome to see you.
Wow, Rob Ryan, that was a hell of an introduction. Thank you so much. You've covered the gamut.
Well, there's a lot of gamut. With you, you are like the preeminent definition of multi-hyphenate, right? Like there's a lot of gamut to cover.
I know. A mentor of mine said, wow, you're going to be fine because you are using both sides of your brain. And I never forgot that,
so true, right? I mean, as we're living in this age of AI and disruption and lots of fear about like what skills or what jobs or what things could persist, like you are you are the prototype of things that will persist because you have figured out how to kind of dabble and frankly thrive in lots of different things, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've got an opening question for you. We're going to talk about so much today. Frankly, I don't even know if I'll do justice to all of the things that we could talk about, but we're gonna navigate our way through this conversation, driven mostly by my curiosities about what I know of you and what I have prepared and tried to research and understand the nuances of the work that you do. So before we get into that, though, just kind of one high level opening question. So my takeaway from reading a lot of your material was that the secret to entrepreneurial or executive success nowadays isn't hustle culture. So if it's not hustle culture, what is the secret to entrepreneurial or executive success today?
Things that are sustainable, things that are longevity focused. Health is wealth. And so my big thing is always seeing people that are on Forbes under 30 and they literally look over 40. And it's tough to see that. And that's because they are literally running themselves into the ground.
Yeah.
I actually saw a post earlier on Instagram. There is a University of Waterloo challenge, and it shows students starting Waterloo and then finishing Waterloo, and it looks completely different. So this is an epidemic that starts way before entrepreneurialism. It's really embedded in Western culture, hustle, hustle, hustle. And it is completely unsustainable. I'll see people on LinkedIn really championing their wins, Series A, B, C. And when they get to C, then I get an announcement about cancer. I've seen it, true story. And it's because literally you've ran yourself into the ground. And so, look, we're not going to show up in the same way for our health and wellness every day. But the biggest thing that I suggest for everyone, client or not, but for my clients, we create a baseline. We create a baseline and think about it as an MVP, but for yourself. What is your minimum viable
version of yourself?
Yeah,
person.
Right.
Your minimal viable person.
Exactly. So if that means, all right, I'm going to take 5,000 steps when technically I should take 10,000 steps, then you're at least meeting that baseline.
Okay.
And that is so important. And the thing about it is that it is going to vary. There are no plug and play. And that's why following the different gurus, following whoever that doesn't actually have an insight on you can be really tricky because it's not necessarily going to be sustainable. So you have to think about two things: budget and bandwidth. Everyone has different budget and everyone has different bandwidth. Both of them are being spent. And you've got to look at that. So with clients of mine, we're looking at everything from if you played a sport in high school, I don't care if that was 50 years ago. It doesn't matter. It's within you, right? And that
40,
gives me an
40 in my case. And I'm going to, well, actually 35 because I also played part of it in college. But I'll say to you this, because this is tremendous validation for you. And from a very old school kind of trendy kind of place that I'm sure you'll appreciate because you're an OG in that sense. My dad used to say to us, as we got older, into my 20s and 30s before he passed away, he used to always say to us that two things. One, he was chiding us a little bit, hey, we have Irish family. He's we have potato farmers' bodies. And we never really knew what that meant. Basically, big boned, right? We're bigger people, right? But his point was the potato farmer reference was this whole Irish, old world kind of reference point to saying regardless of athletics, yes or no, when you are at your best physically, it'll probably be because you are very active. You are literally, metaphorically in the fields, farming the fields. And when you're not doing that, when you're living a more sedentary lifestyle that isn't in the fields farming on a daily basis, you're likely to be heavier and less healthy, et cetera. But what he used to say that is to your exact point that you said is he said to me specifically because of my athletics coming up, he was no matter where you go in life, what age or stage you will be, there will always be an athlete inside of you. He's at your worst, son, he used to call me Bobby. He's at your worst, when you're your least healthy, and my dad wasn't a particularly healthy person or not. He was the same person that he was describing in me. He's like, your athlete might be wrapped in layers and layers of fat and unhealthiness and bad habits and all that. He's like, but I'm reminding you that in those moments when you need to like find your way to dig out of that, you're capable of digging out of it. And over time, you can literally strip down enough of the encumbrances you've added to it to get back to who that athlete was, right? And I like, so that's, and my dad died 19 years ago and like was a child of the Depression. So like he's talking about the same stuff that you're talking about, which is proof to me that what you're talking about is not just some trendy, hip, new cultural thing.
Same thing. And I seek for people to find resonation in everything, because everything I'm talking about is ancient. And to your point about farming, if everyone still had a little plot in their backyard for farms, we wouldn't have as many gyms. Literally squatting down to get potatoes and to pull the root vegetables from the ground are squats. Now, I'm not saying everyone just go get a plot of land in the back of their backyard, but thinking about how just little steps, little things. They weren't doing this to reach a specific goal. They were doing this just to actually survive. And it wasn't like, okay, I got to do 10 sets of this. And again, find your baseline. But yes, everyone has
your baseline. Like the plot of the plot of farmland in your backyard is not attainable for everybody, but that is the metaphorical baseline.
Yes.
Like physical activity, right? Good for you. I love that. All right. So you use a phrase often in your a lot of your online discourse, sustainability over optimization. So what does that phrase mean to us?
Well, I put it together specifically for founders in a way, because again, I work with a lot of founders. I do work with creators, but optimization, okay? It's more about squeezing more out of yourself. Just squeezing more out of yourself. Think about how you're optimizing all of the systems around you. Your body's a system, but it needs a little bit more care. And sustainability is building a system, okay, that you can live inside. One burns you out, one compounds. So that's really it in a nutshell.
and also a savvy like psychology by you, right? Of using the language of the people that you're trying to get through to, right? I'm trying to get all of this so far, right? I mean, like it should be very comfortable language for people to then figure out how to apply to themselves, which is fascinating. I'm just curious, because this is obviously like, this is one of these trendy things that happens a lot nowadays, right? You get these guys, there was a guy early pandemic days, he probably still out there somewhere. And I think he was living here in LA and he was posting on Instagram all the time. You know, he like wanted to live to be 150 years old or some nonsense like that. Which by the way, even if like tremendously healthy, is just me. I'm not saying everybody else should think this way. Like, I don't want to live to 150. Like I want to live like a good, I'm 57. I want to live like a good, healthy life to like, I'd love to make it to like 90. That'd be fantastic, right? Like, and I would have, honestly, and I'm of the mindset, like, if I went tomorrow, I've lived a good life. I'm very grateful beyond belief. But like, if I would love to live to 90, because nobody in my family has ever, like 5 generations back, ever lived past 82, right? And so like 90 is just a fun target. But like this idea that these like, and it's always guys that are doing this. I don't know or why, but like these dudes are like trying to hack themselves into living to like 150 years old. Like, is that like just performative? Is that an actual pursuit of like health and wellness, or is that something psychologically gone awry?
Ego. A lot of it is ego. A lot of it is challenge. And a lot of the people you speak of have been able to achieve such huge goals that they're bored. They're looking for another adrenaline high. They're looking for another goal. Like once I don't know what it is in this day and age, but there was a point where if you made $75,000 a year, like you had you're okay. And anything else more than that is just the icing on the cake. I know it's not $75,000 a year
anymore
now.
But it was. It was.
It was.
I could, that social media meme of like, I'm old enough to remember. I'm actually old enough to remember when that was a big deal. And it was a big deal in my career. So yes, like 100%. Yeah. But there are new milestones, as you say.
There's new milestones, and all to say, you know, once you've reached that exit, once you've cashed out, once you've completely bought all the boats and buildings and everything you can think of, you're like, okay, what is the ultimate thing that people can achieve. And the biggest thing people think about when people are on their last breath is time, 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 time. You cannot buy time. And so if anything, let's try extending it. And we don't have anything else to do. So why don't we just work on ourselves? And because luxury and because wealth has now been a little bit, the playing field is a little bit different now. It's so many knockoffs of the $50,000 bags. There's so many levels of wealth that, you know, great design back in the day, something like IKEA, you would think it was $50,000 and now it's from IKEA. So everything, the playing field as far as just like the visual luxury it's been leveled a little bit. And so now the next level is, all right, how can you take care of yourself? Because the ultimate status symbol is your body. Because you got to invest in it, but then you also have to invest time in it, but you also have to have time to invest in it. And then stack up peptides, stack up really great trainers, stack up coaches like me, stack up a great diet. All of these things take money, and it's not buying a bag from eBay that's a knockoff. It's a new level. So ego's a big thing, but at the end of the day, most people don't want to live to 150. Everyday people, they want to just stop feeling like crap at 45.
Right. Or whatever, whenever it is that they started feeling like crap.
Oh, whenever they started feeling like, exactly. They want clarity. They want energy. They want libido. Anything that's checking off that list that signifies health and wealth. That's what they are looking for. And so that is the first thing that I really look towards helping people with. It's not like, hey, all right, how can we live to 120? I mean, mind you, I'm interested in living to 120 just to kind of see. You know.
But I was going to say, like, and that's why I said, like, my comment was not a judgment statement on anybody. Like, it's just me saying that, and I can understand the curiosity about it. Like that part of it, like, to me makes total sense. Like the whole curiosity of just human biology and human psychology and like, and at time and all, like, those are fascinating things to me as like theses. I just was really curious. You've answered it, like this whole idea of like, you know, is that the norm or are these guys the exceptions? And what you're saying is these guys by and large are the exceptions, just like there are crazy edge cases in everything.
You have to have those outliers though. And what's great about outliers, and I consider myself an outlier in a lot of ways, because the athleticism that I've achieved, you know, I've ran a marathon, ran New York City Marathon. Obviously that requires you to run a lot. Thank you. Chicago this fall, still working on a bib. I saw that on your post, on your social. I was like, all right, you go, girl. I know, I'm working on the bib. And also fasting. I've been practicing fasting since I was in college after my mother had breast cancer for the second time. She's fine now. But these are all extreme things, right? And so you need the outliers to then spark inspiration and motivation for people who are really not interested in running 26.2 or fasting for 10 days. But guess what? That's going to get them off their ass to fast for 2 days, or that's going to get them to walk 10,000 steps or maybe run 2 miles. Not everybody's going to do that. But when they see that extreme, oh, I can never do that. Okay, but what can you do?
Yeah, no, 100%.
What can you do?
Yeah, 100%.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Plaintext Capital. You know, investing in Web3 and cryptocurrencies isn't about jumping on the latest trends. It's about understanding where the market is headed and why. Plaintext Capital is a digital asset investment firm focused on long-term strategies backed by deep research, backing the best Web3 companies and protocols, and investing in the newest asset classes of the future. They believe that Web3 crypto will drive digital innovation for decades to come, creating significant value for investors. In fact, their team of highly skilled professionals work with institutions and serious individual investors who want clarity in a space full of hype and noise. So if you're looking to cut through the chaos and invest with purpose, Plaintext Capital brings a disciplined, high-conviction approach to investing. You can learn more and meet the team at plaintextcapital.com.
When you talk to your clients, like these high-performing professional people, what I find kind of humbling and really authentic about the way you always represent these conversations, protecting people's privacy, right? Is like it's implied to me, like if they're meeting you, not just in passing, but like with intention, then they're ready for help. right? Or at least they're curious about being helped. And so I like something catalyzes those moments for them. So my question to you is kind of like, what are the most common kind of few symptoms of system collapse or burnout or instability that you see that people tell you when you meet them? Like, I'm sure there are a million different symptoms that present themselves, but I also am sure that there's like 3 or 4 that you're like, every single time I talk to somebody, they present with, if it's a high performing professional person, they present at least 2 of these 5. What are those kind of predictable traits that people can start to watch for in themselves?
Number one, people are coming to me for weight loss or weight management.
Makes sense.
That's the biggest thing. And one of the big reasons that is because of cortisol. Cortisol is really where the belly fat resides. And because you are really under pressure, really under stress, that's where that lives.
Okay.
And that is very hard to control. And
damn you, cortisol! I knew that.
Right,
cortisol. for those not watching on YouTube, for those listening everywhere else, I'm just pointing mockingly at my own waistline.
Yeah, cortisol is a big thing. So another one is energy. Energy. Despite not wanting to buy into hustle culture, people still want as much energy to do all of the things and more that they want to do, or at least have the option. Where it's just like, you know what?
Like Lynette, like, oh my God, I'm so glad I met you, or my friend referred me to you because your work. Because honestly, like, I think I'm generally healthy and I'm doing all this stuff, but I'm running my company and I'm growing, and we just had our second baby, and like we're just moved, and I feel tired. Like, I feel tired. So that's this like energy, like their energy's being sapped. Their energy's not sustainable. The energy's too peak and valley.
Yes. It's that, and it's weight. For some people, they are getting over a diagnosis and they need to be led out of that. That's more obviously of a reactive thing. Unfortunately, I don't encounter many that are proactive, and that's actually biological. We are a reactive species. You know, millennia ago, we didn't have the ability to just go to Costco and pack our pantry full of healthy or non-healthy foods and things. It was like, catch it, kill it, get it. All right, let's go. And we're not that at that space. Like, not nearly. And we have not evolved since that. So generally speaking, we kick the can around and all of a sudden we look up and we're like, oh shit, I'm sick. Oh, wow, this kind of happened. And when I think about weight gain, it's not like if you go to Vegas and you lose all of your money in one hand. This is something that has happened over time. You don't wake up, oh my God, I'm overweight. No, dude, you've been slowly but surely. Think about investing. We invest in different things. We invest in our weight. We invest in our sickness. We invest in our health. So what are those little tiny things that you invested in over and over and over again, thinking like, okay, today is going to be different, or today is an exception, and it ends up not. And so that's how most people come to me. And it's very emotional. And that's why I incorporate a lot just of the intuition, because everyone can give you a meal plan, but most people are not going to necessarily stick to a meal plan or any plan unless their emotions are really in tune with making transformational change. And so we go through that. We go through an intake. And of course, we're looking at all of the blood work and all the panels and any wearables that you're wearing. But all of that is out the window unless you're right within, because sometimes people don't necessarily need coaching. I have actually said to clients, you know what? You might need a therapist. Go to the therapist first and get some of this stuff aligned, and then come to me, and then we're going to get everything right. So it's a case-by-case situation.
Boy, for our longtime listeners or folks who have been guests of the show, we by the way, when you finish with today, you become an alumnus of the show. Like, we don't just treat you as transactional guests; you become part of this community. And so, for all those that are listening today, both guests, alumnus, and listeners, and you realize, like, you hear the quietude of my voice now because it's suddenly shifted from like Lynette is talking about these generic people out in the world. Now I feel like she's talking directly to me, which is amazing. Like, this is like I'm gonna be if you see me look away, I'm taking notes here.
Rob feels attacked.
No, in the most positive, ironically,
Okay.
flip the script, very supported. And encouraged, because what part of what you just were talking about there in the generic is actually the issues that I have always struggled most mightily with. I'll give you a little anecdotal story about me. That's a little bit of insight into me psychologically and emotionally, but also now this takes us back like, oh gosh, 12, 13 years now. Very long story, trying to make short for this context. Bear with me, but you'll appreciate the story of it all. And maybe it's an example for other people if they're listening who've gone through something similar. So it was a night in like late 2013, early 2014. I was the CEO of a fast growth company. I was like the hired CEO. I wasn't the founder, creator. So I was working for a board of a bunch of other people. But I had a very particularly bad board meeting exchange with these guys one night down in Rancho Santa Fe, in San Diego County, where all these rich guys lived. And it was fueled by wine and booze and all the wrong things and bad overeating. And then, of course, I made like bad decision upon bad decision. And I drove home from San Diego to South Orange County, where I was living at the time. And my daughter, who just happened to be home for like a week from college, was home, and I wasn't thinking about that. And I stumbled into the apartment drunk off my ass and like angry at these guys and sat down 2 a.m, flipped on the TV, like started eating something out of the refrigerator and like grabbed another beer. And my daughter comes out. She's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what is going on? And so in this moment of young adulthood relationship, she's basically called me out and said like, I don't know what's wrong with you. And I don't care about the story of those guys. Like, if those guys are that bad to work with, then stop working with them. Right. Like, and if you're not comfortable and you don't see that you can be happy or joyful or successful in this pursuit, then quit, like resign, like write the letter, like get out of there. Right. And then she like goes on and lectures me, and she says something that I have repeated the story for 150 times since then that happened, is she says to me, because here's the deal. I don't know if this is some sort of midlife crisis, Dad, but like we're Ryans and we don't do midlife crises. We solve problems when they're presented. And so if you've got a problem and you're not living sustainably or joyfully enough, then it's time for you to wake the fuck up and fix this problem. And she's like, and I'll help you, but like fix the problem. Don't feel sorry for yourself about it, because it's not going to get any better. And then she's like, all right, I love you, big hug, kiss. And she went to bed. Fast forward, that was like a Thursday. The next Monday, I wrote the resignation letter, like told the board I was resigning. And about a week later from that, I weighed myself for arguably the first time in probably a handful of years, right? And the weight on the scale kind of didn't shock me, but it should have shocked me. But it basically reminded me of how badly I had let the world take charge of my life instead of me being in charge of my life, right? And that next day after that, now realizing how woefully unfit I was and how embarrassingly unfit and unhealthy I was, and as this former athlete inside of me, kind of angry at myself that was the case, I said to a friend, I was like, I'm going to go for a walk today. And they were like, oh, that's cool. Like, I don't know why you felt the need to tell me that. I'm like, no, because this is a big deal. Like, I am intentionally strapping on the tennis shoes and going out there to exercise. And I'm just telling you as a friend, because I don't know that I'm going to be able to do this the next day. And so I'm kind of asking you to help me be accountable to myself. Oh. So I'd love it if you could like check in on me maybe in a couple of days and see if I'm still doing it, because I'd like to try and do this every day. But I've been so long since I've done like a specific exercise type of anything, like I don't know how often I'm going to be able to do it. And I went for that walk, and to your point about emotions, fueled by my daughter's story in my ear, right? I literally made it about 3/4 of a mile out of my very hilly neighborhood. And I sat next to a mailbox on the curb and in the public, like straight up on the street corner in my neighborhood. And I literally just wept for like 25 minutes. I just cried into my own hands for like 25 minutes, basically just could not believe that I had allowed myself to get to this point. And so then I was also slightly proud of myself, because I very intentionally walked to that spot and that mailbox, because I literally knew this is pre-Uber and Lyft, like showing up in the neighborhood. And so I literally knew like I was going to have to at least walk the 3/4 of the mile there and the 3/4 of the mile back, or else I wasn't going to be able to get home. Like,
Oh,
so,
that's runner theory. Oh yeah.
right, so I
What you
literally
give, what you got to get.
I tricked myself even in that moment. And then that began a whole long journey of 3 years of that kind of like dedicated walking, just walking a little bit further, walking a little bit more per week, blah, 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 blah. And I wound up losing like 75 pounds and da, 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 da. But I'm just telling you this whole soliloquy about me for two reasons. One, because I wanted to show you like how real what you're talking about is, right? And also how, as you said in the very beginning, everybody has their own kind of story and profile and set of needs and or bandwidth and budget, right?
Yep.
And in that moment, the bandwidth was like my emotional ability to convince myself to get out the door, and the budget was like I knew I could at least take the budget of my time and I could walk. And the resignation letter was like me putting a flag in my life and saying, okay, from this moment forward, it's going to be different. I don't know what it's going to be, but I know it's going to be different. So that was a little bit of a soliloquy about me. Thank you for indulging me.
Yeah, that's actually, I'm the best person for that, because the purpose that I have in my clients' lives and the stories that we're telling, this is not about profit and loss statements. This is literally about real life. So I wouldn't expect anything less than to have the platform to be able to say that. I think what's great about that is that the first thing I'm thinking when I'm hearing like your daughter just completely go off on you, I'm like, damn, he was getting it from the daughter and the dad. Good job. Like both ends, like, no, you are an athlete and it's never going to go away. And the other one's like, look, we are Ryans and this is what we're doing. Like, okay, yes, y'all.
Trust me, in those days and weeks that followed after that, when I like dragged myself out, and I did drag myself out every day. And I didn't even stop for a check-in to see like if I was really doing it or not until I woke up and I was like 32 days in. And so I knew I was significantly on my path towards a habit, right? So let's get back to you. Thank you for all of that. But like, I'm curious, right? Like, talk to me. You talked already about this idea of not so much around energy, but about optimizing time, right? And how people are fascinated with that. And that is essentially in part what you're trying to help people to retrieve or to maximize. Like, so we talked a lot about the symptoms that present when they show up to you the first time, when they're like, holy shit, I think I need some help. Now my question is more like, as you work with people, what do you see? Like, what are the biggest energy leaks? Like, what are the biggest time energy leaks that just are so consistent in people's lives, even as they're working with you, where you have to catch them and call them out?
Unnecessary emotional labor.
Okay. Which, thank you, by the way, you say that after you just carried 15 minutes of unnecessary emotional labor that was mine. Thank you for that.
Managing other people's chaos, over explaining. Okay. That's a big leak. That drains people in general faster than anything. We're doing the most. We're not budgeting our emotional bandwidth to things, and we don't realize the slow leaks. It's like a tire. I had an issue with the tire like last year, and it was a slow leak, and I'm thinking like, oh, I don't need to replace it. And so I would go to the station and I'd fill it up, and then I'd look on the little app and it'd say, no, no, no. And then I go back, no, no, no. And it's like, okay, you know what? The tire needs to actually be replaced. And it's only so long that you can manage a slow leak. It's only so long that you can manage a slow leak. So those are the biggest things. Again, going back to cortisol, going back to emotions, because then you end up eating your feelings. And most people eat, unless you're like, I don't know, Brian Johnson, you know, you're going. No, shout out to Brian.
I'm pretty sure that's the guy I was thinking about in the back of my head when I was thinking about 150-year-old people.
I know. Shout out to Brian. I've actually chefed for him, and he loved the rendition of the food that he authorizes for himself that I prepared.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Awesome.
But yeah, unless you are on like a strict program like that, most people are going to emotionally eat in some form or fashion. I do it. Everybody does it. Everyone kind of has their thing. It generally comes from childhood. And those are the things that help to feed the slow leaks, because you woke up a little late. Sleep is a lead domino. After that, okay, you didn't do the workout. You cut it short. Okay, then you got a dumpster fire of an email. Okay, stacking onto the court. All of these things happen. And then you add on the necessary emotional labor from your staff on why they didn't show up on time, or an investor on why the wire didn't come through, or your wife or your husband or your kid or the dog, even the cat walking around meowing. That's emotional labor. So some of it, obviously, you cannot avoid. So it is up to you to really practice. I love this word, discernment.
Oh.
Discernment. When it's like, okay, all right, you're looping.
Yeah.
You're looping.
And being able to spot that in yourself, like just, and then like, okay, take a breath. Right.
Exactly.
That's
Men,
awesome.
I find, are much better at this in a way than women, because men will be like, okay, so are you venting or do you want a solution? But we all carry on this way because we're all emotional beings. But
of course,
I notice when conversing with men, they're like, okay, so solutions based, right? Okay, so
interesting.
what are we doing here? Like,
that's important insight, considering our audience is like 55% women and 45% men. So that's fascinating insight. All right, let's do this.
Yeah.
You've indulged me through this first half of the show. I want to let's take a breath here, and let's like just do a commercial. Like, give us this is the story. This is the story of your business, your services. How do you engage with clients? I'll ask you a couple follow-ups, but like, are there different product offerings? Like, just give us kind of, not, I hate the elevator pitch word, but like, tell us the story of your business and like what you're doing and how you do it.
Absolutely. So I'm Lynette Astaire, and I am helping leaders live longer and stronger. I am a recovering founder myself, so I know both sides of the coin. And it is really important that everyone keep their health and wellness together, because you want to actually enjoy the fruits of your labor. So working with me, there are a few different ways. So at baseline, if you are interested in fasting, whether that be water fasting, intermittent fasting, juice fasting, I have a program that I've had for about 8 years. It's called Reset with Lynette. And that is based off of 20 years of me fasting. I believe it's the fountain of youth. I was born in 1981. Bam. Say less.
I was gonna make a joke and be like, she's actually 75 years old, everybody. She just looks great.
No, I'm cosplaying as a 29-year-old, and I really, really, really attribute that to my 20-year fasting practice. So I've put that in a great program. We meet once a month as well for accountability. I also have a section for women. We cannot just fast along with everyone else. We have hormones that go along with our menstrual cycles that really need to be kept in mind when we're thinking about that. So that's baseline. Then after that, I work one-on-one with founders over 30 days, 90 days, 6 months. We're meeting once a week. I'm looking at your labs. We are listening to your story. We're figuring out within your budget or bandwidth what's going to work for you, what is going to stick. On average, if you are looking to lose weight, my clients lose about 10 pounds within the first month, which is absolutely awesome. That's sustainable. I also work with clients that are on GLP-1 medications, and I work a lot with them at a clinic in Beverly Hills here, because obviously you need a doctor prescription for that. But that's really important for people to have a great lock on their nutrition when it comes to GLP-1s, because you're eating less, so you need to eat much better. And then on the enterprise level, for the past few years, I've worked a lot with accelerators, boot camps, different founder groups. And I've worked with them a lot on marketing, but a big thing I've worked with them a lot on is founder wellness. I've always included an aspect for them to come together to share our best practices, to figure out, okay, what's working for us, what's not working for us, because not everyone, again, budget and bandwidth, not everyone can necessarily afford a coach in this moment because they are raising money. So always for the founder groups, for the VC groups, everyone across the board, I'm always including that. And I'm so thankful for all of the founder groups that have had me to come in and to spread this gospel, because it shows
important. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't do you any good if you're raising capital or you're making those first few hires or whatever, if you're literally unsustainable as a person.
Exactly. So I'm seeing more and more founder groups being able to include that and actually build that out in the beginning of their cohorts, which is so important. And really, it's a value proposition for the group. Like, oh, wow, you care about a raise, but you also care about my heart rate. Great. Let's do this.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Haney and Company. You know, we all know that in today's complex financial landscape, having a trusted advisor can make all the difference. Since 1960, Haney and Company has been providing comprehensive accounting services to a diverse range of clients, from small businesses to large corporations. With nearly 400 professionals across 13 locations, they offer services in tax, audit, business consulting, and client advisory. In fact, their commitment to excellence has earned them recognition from Accounting Today and Forbes magazines. At Haney & Company, though, it's not just about balancing books. It's about building lasting relationships based on trust and mutual growth. So visit HaneyCPAs.com, that's HaneyCPAs.com, to learn how they can support your business's financial journey. Differentiation, right? And to your point, not diminishing the value of the specific things that you offer, but to your broader point, like the entry ramp to like being able to set a baseline and understand yourself in a baseline way isn't like a hugely complicated thing. And it doesn't require huge amounts of the baseline, the starting point is like, we can take some blood, we can measure your heart rate, we can do this stuff pretty low key, pretty easily. And if a program is looking to do that, or a community organization is looking to do that, it's incredible value add. And talk about like differentiation from just those people over there, when all of a sudden you're able to say to your community, like, hey, yeah, we're literally going to empower you with tools that are going to help you maintain yourself as a human being while also figuring out how to be a founder, right?
Exactly. Measuring
awesome.
Both of those numbers, the same way you're looking at that P&L. Okay, you need to be looking at your HRV the same way.
Yeah, I love that. I'm curious. You're a solopreneur, as we say, right? You're a solo business owner. That obviously, I'm much the same way in what I'm doing with this podcast, with the media stuff we're building. Like, so there are just natural limitations that come with that, right? Like, there's only so many things, there's so much that we can do. So I'm curious, like, with that being said, there's nothing limiting you from doing it differently or doing it bigger or doing it in partnership with other people. So I'm curious, like, again, you're a relatively young person still, like with a lot of life in front of you. Like, how do you see the next decade of this practice that you've built? Like, what do you want to, just from a business entrepreneur mindset standpoint, like, what do you want to do with this? Like, what would it look like 10 years from now versus today, if it was serving you the way you see success?
Absolutely. Okay. So first of all, let's go like 80 years into the future. I'm literally going to be a version of the Oracle from the first Matrix.
Boom.
That is my goal.
That's also, by the way, the Oracle in the first Matrix, like that's like an incredibly great character. Great character, and also like an incredible actor. Like, so yes, that's a great story.
That's the one. So bring it back a few decades. I want to continue to serve both sides of the coin. So obviously my time, my expertise, 20 years in this, living this, before, like you said, it was even a hashtag or a theme, that comes at a premium. That absolutely comes at a premium. And so for those that are in a position to be able to invest in that, that will continue to scale up. However, I want to create some other resources that are free. And a lot of that will continue to come through my former startup, which is now a nonprofit, which is Superfood School. It helps people to incorporate more plant-based foods into their diet, no matter what their diet is. Continuing to build resources for that because, not everyone has the budget. Not everyone has the bandwidth. But again, I want to make sure that both sides of the coin literally are being served with my expertise. It wouldn't do my soul justice to say like, oh, okay, I'm going to work with this billionaire or I'm going to work with this group of VCs and then just not serve the person that's literally on the 405 going through it,
I love that. But that's also great business acumen, right? It's like balancing the enterprise and the consumer, so to speak, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's wiser on your part. One of the things I was curious about as I was thinking about this conversation in advance is like, we keep using this phrase, kind of catch-all phrase, like high performers, right? High-performing professionals. Those people tend oftentimes to be the types of people who are either like in complete charge of their lives, right? Or have complete dominion over everybody that works with them or works for them, and in the worst case scenarios are like always right? How do you develop trust? How do you get those people to like trust you to kind of, I mean, I say this is my words, not yours, like kind of like break them apart, you know, physically and emotionally, and then like rebuild that. That can't be an easy task by you.
It's easy in the way that when people make the decision to even send me an exploratory email or have the 15-minute
Okay.
discovery call, they've already accepted a certain thing. There are going to be many people that are listening or watching, and just how you felt exposed in a bit, you're not the first or the last person that's going to listen to that and feel this way. And it's like, oh, wow. Okay. You know what? Okay, cool. Yeah. Let me look into this and let me see what we can do for 30 days, 90 days, or, 6 months. So the good thing when people are coming to me and they become clients, they've already reached a level of humility, so to speak, because it's like, okay, I do need help. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, when I'm doing lead generation or maybe something cold or warm, then it's like, oh, I know. Okay, then you know everything. Okay, well, if you know, then why is XYZ 1, 2, 3 happening? Like I had a client, well, it wasn't actually a client, it was a potential client. And he, again, you got to be careful with energy leaks. Like he just felt like he needed to be convinced to be able to work with me. And what ended up happening is when I followed up with him, he's like, oh, well, I think I can do this on my own. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes just having the call puts you in a level of accountability with yourself. Like, no, I can do this.
Yeah, and maybe snaps you out of it. For like a really disciplined, very thoughtful, very self-aware person, like just the catalytic conversation with you was enough to go, all right, let me give this a shot. I think I might, okay.
Yeah, but I was on the phone with him too long. That was my bad. I might have like overcoached him. And again, energy leaks. You like when everything that I'm saying are things that I still have to tell myself. Like, I don't think people realize that the practitioner, look, the barber needs a barber. The mechanic needs everyone needs backup. Everyone needs accountability. Everyone needs a second, as my dad says, a second set of eyes and a second pair of hands to be able to move things along. And so in that case, when I am speaking about consistency, repetition, showing up for yourself, I got to tell myself that every day when I wake up.
Yeah, no, of course.
Like, do you think, like, I'm talking about a marathon, but I'm like, damn, I got to run. Oh, okay. I don't necessarily want to do that all the time. Yep. I don't necessarily like working out, but I also don't like being sick or being washed. I don't.
Right.
So it's like pick your poison. No,
but in that way, also, that's your humanity too, which I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, it makes for an appealing conversation, but I'm sure it also makes for people feeling a greater ability back to like kind of being able to trust you and identify with you, right? Because you're not approaching it as if they're the broken thing and you're the perfect thing. Like that's not at all your dynamic. Never has been in my experiences of you, like which is always you ooze, even online, even in like written format, like you ooze like empathy and kindness and encouragement. Like that's just your vibe from an outsider's point of view. And again, in these types of vulnerable exercises in our lives, I would imagine that's hugely valuable to you.
It really is. Empathy is key. It's so important. And look, we're all walking each other home, and sometimes we need a little bit of extra help.
But that's a great way to put it. You just made me think of that. We should all aspire to be the friend that says, hey, text me when you get home, right? Like that, like, cause that friend is the friend you want, right? Or the relationship you want or whatever, right? Like, it's the text me when you get home, right? Yes. That's what we're all chasing after. All right. So you said this, and I love this phrase, cause you are a great chef from everything I've ever heard from anybody that has talked about you online or your own sharing of stories, right? Like, but interestingly to me, you say that food isn't necessarily the favorite thing that you love to serve. It's actually clarity that you love to serve. So here's what I want you to help. Let's help people understand. What does clarity feel like? Like literally, how does someone start to feel more clear when they finally start to find that? Like physically, how does it present itself?
Unclench your jaw. Everybody.
I love that, right?
Unclench your jaw.
Everybody was immediately like, Oh, whoa. What happened? Right? Yes.
That's where we hold a lot of it. And that's where your nervous system is generally screaming. And believe it or not, your jaw and the clenching is actually tied to the psoas, which is right here below. And all of that's connected.
Okay,
and
hold
so when
on.
you get
Back up,
okay.
doctor. What is the psoas?
The psoas muscle is like, it's in the hip. It's on either
Okay.
side. And a lot of time when you have lower back pain, I've actually had a masseuse who was a physical therapist say, turn over, I'm on my back. And he's actually, it's almost like, it's where your hips are and like
Yeah.
your lower like pelvis.
Okay.
And it ties to everything. It ties
Obviously.
to everything.
Yes, that's
And
the way
a
you
lot
describe
of,
it.
yeah, a lot of times when you have hip issues or lower back issues and you need to open up those hips, hip openers, like in yoga,
That's
that
why.
is where you need, yeah. And then
Okay.
also that's like fascia. So fascia is obviously all over the body, and fascia for a really long time was kind of just looked at just like some throwaway components. But as we know with the human body, there is nothing
Yeah, there's no
that can
throwaway.
be thrown away. And when you think about animals undergoing stress, we're the only animal, like when an animal undergoes stress and they just hunted or did something, they kind of do like a shake. They kind of, they just do a thing to
And
kind
we
of get it
don't.
out. We don't do that. And so a lot of
But by
times
the
if
way,
you,
on the handful of times that I have in my life,
yeah,
literally physically shaking it off, man, does
yeah.
that feel good.
Yeah. So I know it seems kind of wild and everyone wants to be woo-woo and weird, but like this morning, I just like shook it out. They say to do it for like 5 minutes. Sometimes I don't have 5 minutes. And
Yeah.
some people, say rebounding, that's really good, but you just want to shake all of this out. So first up, with clarity, you're not going to clench your jaw as much. Your chest is going to soften. Decisions stop feeling healthy. That stop feeling heavy. You're going to feel these things in your gut. You're not second guessing everything. People think
Wow.
clarity is mental. It's physiological.
Yeah, physiological. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I say that fast 5 times.
Yeah, exactly. Physiological.
Yeah, it's your body saying, okay, we're safe. We can breathe again. We can think again. We're good. And we think about this when we make these gut decisions. Again, the gut is like our second brain, and we feel like, ooh, that wasn't right. If you think and if you're really listening to yourself, that's why meditation is really important. Even if you're doing 5 minutes a day, it doesn't matter. Just the practice creates the practice. You're listening to yourself and you're like, ooh, okay, yeah, that wasn't right. And that's why we always hear people say like, I should have used my first mind. Yeah, you should have. Like we're all like, I incorporate, like I said, intuitive, my abilities to be able to really help people at the core, but we are all intuitives. We all
100%.
have an internal crystal ball inside of us that's telling us that that's right or that's not right. It's through micro expressions, tone changes. We can all feel it. We're able to feel it a lot when it comes to like dating and relationships, like, because we're big pattern people, like, wait, they took like an extra 5 minutes to text back, or just all these other things that are happening. And over time, it's pattern recognition. So pattern recognition is your biggest intuitive friend. And that is one of your biggest places to be able to receive clarity, because you can see in the pattern, and that's nature
awesome.
And that's life. So yeah.
Hugely important. All right. We've talked about how you and I are both extraordinarily look younger for our age, but let's talk about everybody else for a second. So what are a couple of things, like kind of beliefs or systems about our health that like works for people in their 20s that if just kind of done blindly when in your 40s or beyond, like could actually be problematic and could be dangerous?
Okay. Grind culture, hustle culture, just burning it. Because when your 40s show up, that's when the bill comes.
Are there physical things too, like in the workouts we do, or in the this, or like we could say like, oh yeah, I used to be an athlete, and you and I are talking about that both literally as well as kind of emotionally. But like you might hear someone say like, oh yeah, but I've always been an athlete. Like if I could do this when I was 25, I could do it when I'm 45. Are there some of those where you're like, whoa, you might not be able to do it or do it the exact same way? And if you try and do it, you could actually do more harm to yourself.
It's about doing it the same way, because everyone can run. I mean, you can see the marathon. That's the reason why the marathon allows like 9 or 10 hours. I forgot how long it is, because there are people in their 70s, 80s, or 90s that are still slow rolling to the finish line. And so it's not about doing it. It's about how you're doing it, and then taking the time to then adjust your recovery, adjust your fueling, adjust your mindset. And one of the biggest things that I would suggest for people is don't say that you're old. I actually did this a few weeks ago on my Instagram, and I'm like, I went off on a rant. I do these rants like every Tuesday, and I'm like, look, stop saying you're old. Stop saying you're old, because again, words are power. Spelling are spells. So you're casting a spell on yourself, essentially, when you're saying, oh, I'm old, I'm old, I'm old. You're adding like a decade or 10 onto your actual biological age by just speaking that your cells are listening. And so a lot of times if I see friends from high school or college or family members, man, we're getting old, I'm like, speak for yourself, sir. That's not, we're not
literally
doing
like
this over there.
literally like almost like you're just the proxy. I'm really speaking to my own brain to prevent my wires from getting crossed. Wow. Good
And
for you.
it takes time. And I think about it. I lived in Mexico for about 6 years, and I thought about when I was learning Spanish, they don't say like how we say in English, how old are you? They say, what's your age?
Right.
¿Cuántos años? How many years do you have? How many? That's just that slight framing of language is going to do something different. And I get it, we're obsessed with youth, but that's a big thing. Words do matter. And I'm not really hard pressed to even say my age, not to say that, oh my gosh, I'm ashamed
right.
But look, this calendar is so completely wonky. Who knows? I could be 100. It's like, who knows right now?
or 29 apparently. Right?
Or exactly, or 29. Yes. So that's a big thing. I think 2 other things that are really important. Sleep is the lead domino. Please take advantage of your sleep as much as possible. Not every day you're going to hit it. I know that I don't, but 80-20 rule. If 80% of the year, 80% of the month, 80% of the week, you can hit those marks and get good sleep, it's really important. And then the second thing is developing a fasting habit. And that's why I developed the Reset with Lynette course, because fasting, back to what I was saying earlier about back in the day, we had to hunt and forage and get what we got. And then in between that time, by default, we were intermittent fasting. We are not biologically built to have DoorDash at our house. We are DoorDashing ourselves to death.
The village hut didn't have a snack cabinet in it, right?
It didn't have a machine, a vending machine down at the
your
ground floor of your building.
Little kid's like, Dad, I want a snack. You're like, we get food again tomorrow when I go out and I hunt some food again. Like, so.
Girl, so you're not going to get those blueberries.
And by the way, the sun just went down, which means it's time to go to bed. Like literally, like none of this, like you're going to stay up and watch TV till like, it's like 120 year BC. Like it's sun is down, you go to bed, and then tomorrow morning we wake up when it comes up and we go hunt.
Netflix, we're watching the stars on Netflix.
Right.
You're just watching the stars in the sky. That's about all you're doing. So intermittent fasting is big.
Yeah, those are huge. And I got to shout out, I had a little like humorous moment in my head as you were describing the stop telling ourselves that we're old. This is also just a testament to the world and our listeners in particular, the power of having a really strong, loving Black woman in your life. Because my great friend and a multiple time alumnus of this show, Kiana Patterson, almost 4 years ago now, at an event in LA where honestly, we barely knew each other. Like we were friends, but like we weren't great friends. And I spouted off something about my age and referring to myself as being too old for such and such in this room. And she literally, like she was sitting next to me and she literally looked at me and like, I mean, she gave me like ray gun eyes and then just said to me, stop saying that. And I was like, what? I don't even know. What did I say? And she was like, you got to stop. And this is 4 years ago. This is when I was 53, right? And I was like squawking about being 53, being too old or something. And she was like, knock that off. Like, just, that's fucking ridiculous. Like, you're as young as you decide you want to be. Like, and you are, by the way, you are not old. And I was like, okay. And honestly, although I am very conscious and I'm very openly share about my age, it is actually no longer rooted in that insecurity, like around old. It's mostly just rooted in what it's been rooted in since both my parents passed away within like the same year of each other back 19, almost 20 years ago when I was 38, and I became immediately differently cognizant of my own mortality in a way that, which has actually kept me healthier now, as opposed to becoming like an emotional baggage that has dragged me down. It's boosted me up. So now when I talk about like being 57, I'm talking about it like in the sense of like, because I've got like 30, 35, 40 years left, most realistically, based on like normal biology and genetics in our family. So I'm like trying to squeeze everything I can out of all of it. But when she called me out on it, God bless you, Kiana, like she was calling me out for the same reason that you just called all of us out, which is like, it is rewiring how we think about ourselves to refer to ourselves in those, I thought I was being funny and self-deprecating, but self-deprecating can also be dangerous.
It's very dangerous. And here's the fact. None of us are going to make it out of here alive. That's not even, that's a no-brainer, right?
We all die.
That's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. And that's cool. But
Yes.
while we're here, we really need to be as healthy and health-minded as possible.
Yeah, no, I love that.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Chisos Capital. Everyone knows that raising capital is hard. And frankly, finding the next pool of entrepreneurs to get access to as limited investors is sometimes impossible too. Do you have a big idea, a dream you're building, but you're struggling to find early funding? Well, Chisos is changing the game for founders, creators, athletes, and investors. Whether you're launching a startup, growing your creative brand, or training for the big leagues, Chisos backs you. Chisos uniquely invests up to $100,000 in people, not just products, whether they be entrepreneurs, creators, or even athletes. With their unique CISA model, convertible income share agreements, founders get flexible funding without giving up equity or ownership, and investors get attractive returns and great upside with less risk. Chisos works for both investors and the people bringing our world to life. If you're seeking access to a truly diverse pool of deals, or you're someone who feels overlooked by the VC game, Chisos is ready to back you. So apply now at chisos.io.
A little bit about you, kind of last question before we get to our last segment. Yeah. You've lived literally several lives already, which I freaking love. And you've packed it into all these years of the years we've just talked about that your age is. Like, I just love that, right? Artist, chef, founder, athlete, mystic. So amidst all of that, as I said in your opening, right, the complexities and yet simplicities of you, to me, that's how you jump out. You are both a very deep, rich, complex human being, but you're also very simple and very kind of clear. That's, again, my take on you as a friend who don't even know each other that well, but like for some reason know each other well enough, right? So here's my
Clubhouse.
question to you. Yeah, right?
Clubhouse made everybody know everybody.
It really did. It was a unique moment in time.
Oh my God, we're so blessed for that, Rob.
Oh,
Holy
yes.
smokes.
Oh my gosh. Holy smokes. It's 100% true. So of these various lives that you lead, these various personas, so to speak, which version of you do you think has actually saved the other versions of you from burning out?
Wow. Oh, you got me. You got me on that one. Huh. Which versions of me have saved the others from burning out? I'm going to go with the mysticism. I'm going to go with the intuition because, again, I've had a very circuitous life, and there have been times where friends, family, acquaintances, coworkers have doubted my choices. And then in the end, sometimes it's 5 months later, 5 years later, God willing, 50 years later, once I even get to that point. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, yeah, you were right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I should have trusted you on that. And that's very, 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 very tricky because that requires a level of self-awareness, self-actualization that is built up over time, that is built up over experience to where you really need to trust yourself. So I think self-trust and knowing, because
I love it.
when I was 10, I started my first food business when I was 11, but when I was 10, I had a dream to move to Los Angeles and become a doctor, and I was going to go to UCLA, and all this stuff is kind of happening. And I lived in Chicago. Then I moved to New York. I was born in South Carolina. I lived in New York for 11 years. I lived in Mexico for 6 years. And then finally, almost 10 years ago, I landed in Los Angeles, and I absolutely positively am not a doctor, but if food is medicine and the work that I'm doing is anything close to it, which it is, and me working with doctors, I found out how to actually become a doctor and live in Los Angeles and do it my
Yes.
way,
I love that.
because doctors, I mean, look, nutrition is a blow-off class. I have brain surgeons coming to me for health and wellness advice. So let's miss me with that. So again, I figured out how to do it my own way, but that requires so much self-trust, because you've got to know that this is the best choice for you, because there's going to be so many people and things in your ear that might want to stray you away. And again, like I was saying earlier, when your last breath, you were wishing that you had more time. But then the second one is that you wish you'd made different decisions and followed your heart and followed the best path for you, not particularly your heart, but really the best path for you to do what it is that you came here to do.
And so maybe to your point, it's right. Let's retweak that phrase of like follow your heart or follow your passion.
Yeah.
Maybe those are just like monikers for what I think I'm hearing you say we should really get to, which is like follow your intuition.
Yeah, you
like
have to
follow your proverbial sense of yourself, your gut, your like that instinct. Right.
Yeah. You read like Steve Jobs, like his bio, like everyone, these big folks, they've always got these gut feelings. Now, obviously, they've got so many other things being employed, but it starts with you. To have this group around you following their gut starts with you following your gut.
Yeah.
So,
quick personal anecdote, because I wrote about this yesterday. Maybe I was preemptively thinking about this because of you.
Of course, you're in the field. You're in the field, Robert.
Right. But I said, I and this is the crazy part of this story, which I'm so grateful for, is I had a friend from high school, and I don't have interactions with many friends from high school. High school for me now, like, is 41 years ago, right? Like 16. Yeah. So this is a friend from when we were 16. So like sophomore, junior year. But we've apparently been friends on Facebook forever, right? So, okay, that's great. And so he DMs me yesterday. I had written a little post. My little story was, it was almost one of those, if you know kind of things. I didn't like wax on about it, but it was a picture of Walter Cronkite, the news journalist from CBS Evening News back in the 40s, 50s, 60s. He's the news anchor who famously was like one of the three big news anchors when we only had 3 network television stations to watch when we were kids, my age, a little bit older than you. And he was the voice of the historical memories that we all have of the stories that we've seen, for those of us who weren't alive then when President Kennedy was shot. He was the news anchor who famously like interrupted the news to tell that to the world for the first time. So that voice, and I did that because literally, like when I was a little kid, that was what I aspired to be. Like I aspired to be, not like I didn't know it was a profession. I just knew I wanted to be Walter Cronkite. Like, wow. and I want, so, and then literally like that was important enough to me that when I went to college, I went to study journalism. Like I went to pursue journalism and media communications. And then of course I got distracted by life and fun and being a 20-something-year-old. And I gave up on all that when I realized how hard it was. And no one was around me to like force me to stick with it. And fast forward, and literally this is what I do for a living, right? And so this high school friend sends me a DM and he was like, hey, I just want to tell you, like, I'm an avid listener of your podcast and watcher now that you've added the YouTube last year. And he says, in your story yesterday about your Rob story on social media about like Walter Cronkite, he's like, the minute you posted that, I immediately thought to myself, like, this is no surprise at all to me that like at 57 or 55, when I decided to really try and make a living doing this, he's like, it's not surprising at all. Because when you were in high school, like, he's like, you loved and valued like the power of long form conversations and interviews with interesting people back then. Oh, and I started to cry, Lynette. Like, I'm not kidding. Like,
I love that.
I literally started to cry. And like, this guy's name is Bill Wyson. So shout out to you, Billy, for listening.
Bill!
And I was like, I don't even know how to express how grateful I am for you for that little moment where you didn't have to do that, but like to make an effort to like leave that message for me, to tell me that you saw me. Right. And by the way, also like, let's not even get into the whole benefit of like value of between two adult men. Right. Or two middle-aged white men. Like, I mean, there's a whole myriad of things that made that so important to me. But just the fact that like he saw that and he was like, yeah. And so I laugh now joyfully oftentimes now when I think to myself, or I say to myself, or I say to my daughter, who is a television writer here in Hollywood, like aspiring, chasing her career, because she is a storyteller extraordinaire. And I couldn't be more proud of that. But I often just kind of go like, yeah, basically your dad is just finally in his mid-50s decided to try and take a go at making a living, doing the thing that he thought was really important when he was like 12, which is like sitting down, and the only way we learn about each other, the only way we bridge knowledge, the only way we share humanity, the only way we ever get through to the other side of the bad stuff is by having long conversations with each other. And she was like, I think it's fucking awesome, Dad. Like, I couldn't be more proud of you. And so the fact that like what you're talking about is I'm punchlining our entire conversation with a personal anecdote to again validate the value of what you are teaching us today. Like this is like so to the listeners who are listening and watching, like what Lynette is sharing with us today is not, mystical biohacking nonsense that is some trendy thing. What she's really doing is she's channeling like all of the universe's knowledge and perspective and technical skills. And she's just intuitively helping us to tie that back into ourselves. And yes, like if you are a high performing professional or founder or athlete or creative, whatever it is you're trying to do in your life, like you need a baseline that can be set by people like Lynette. So, and that was selfishly for our audience, for you listeners and viewers, like that's another reason I wanted to invite Lynette into our community and onto the show, because like, I know, like I've had the pleasure of having sat down with now about 185 or so unique individual people like you out of the 201 conversations that we've released to the world over this last almost 6 years. And like, we're going to have another 50 conversations this year. So that like, and I know these people, you people that are our alumnus and the people that listen, they're all aspiring to be highly performing at something that they're doing in their lives. So, again, monologue here at the end, but I do have one more question for you. Okay. Kind of our closing segment question, if you can. Okay. Let's leave people with a little bit of tactical takeaway from this, not just the nice waxy memories of Rob's emotional stories today, but all right. So for everybody that is listening or watching who is successful by however they define that, but they're exhausted constantly, what are the first two honest questions that they need to ask themselves tonight if they are going to change the trajectory away from how exhausted they feel right now? What are the two first most honest questions that they need to ask themselves tonight, actionably?
How much do they love themselves? How much do you love yourself? How much do you love yourself? Because self-love, I know it sounds really woo-woo, but how much do you love yourself? And the second question is, are you ready?
Powerful.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? And the thing is you could be ready and do it for a week, and then you stop, and then you come back, and then you stop. And that's okay. Starting is the most important thing. Think about the stock market. Think about a heart rate monitor. It's like this. It's like this.
You said it earlier. Essentially, like the stock market and our HRV. That's your balance sheet. That's your financial P&L. Is the human P&L is our HRV.
It's like exactly. So as long as you're not flatlining, we live in a very excessive society. So everything is supersized. And when you think about biohacking and health and wellness, believe it or not, people supersize this too. I need all the peptides. I need all the superfoods. I need all the things. And it's just like, no, you don't. Like, can you just start with one thing? Because if you don't, you completely overloaded your system again. And you think it's okay because it's for the better. But then again, your budget and your bandwidth will burn you out. So just start with incremental things along the line that builds up your value, builds up your morale. So are you ready?
Our listeners are going to be going to bed tonight. They're going to be looking in the mirror, brushing their teeth, and they're going to say,
how much do you love yourself?
How much do I love myself? And am I ready?
Yeah. Self-talk. It reminds me of, that's the thing when you're talking about, you're aging yourself and whatnot, but you will totally know this. And a lot of you all will totally know this, but I was definitely a little kid when this came out, but I'll never forget Stuart Smalley on Saturday Night Live. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And doggone it, people like me.
100%. Yeah,
and that's a bar. That's real talk.
Right? That's stuck on you when you were a little kid, right? Like, because that was
like 9.
That was like peak. Yeah, that was like my peak, like young adult life. And that character forever is so resonant.
I should have been in bed. I should have been asleep, and my parents weren't letting me stay up with that in the church lady. But guess what? Yeah. I got the message, and that is the most important message. It starts with self-love. It sounds really hokey and basic, but challenge yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely nothing hokey about this entire conversation today. If anything, like you said, and I hopefully illustrated, it's the amalgamation of all of these parts of who you are that have made you and have given you both the skills and the intuition and the empathy to be able to help other people. And in the mirror of this conversation, I hope people will take away the subsidiary message, which is that all of us all have also these components, right? Our components are just different from Lynette's. Lynette's are different from ours, from mine. Mine are different from yours. If there are hundreds or thousands of people that are listening, like each is going to have their unique baseline, as you said to us in the very beginning. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. This is an ultimate gift for me to be able to have these types of conversations on a weekly basis with people. I make that very clear in the intro of the show. But I got to tell you, every once in a while, a conversation just also becomes like a personal gift to me that like you pierce through I'm hosting, I'm looking at questions, I'm watching the clock, I'm doing all these different things, but you are also really speaking to me. And so thank you for that. Like, thank you for just the gift of this conversation today. I had high expectations because I know you, but it also exceeded my expectations. So
awesome.
That was awesome.
Oh my God. Thank you.
How can people find you, follow you, sign up for you, whatever it is they want to connect with you on socials or websites or wherever? Drop all that stuff now, and then we'll put it in the show notes for people.
Okay, perfect. So my website is the hub for everything about me, and that's LynetteAstaire.com. And from there, there's a guidance section where you can learn about Reset with Lynette, which is a fasting section. You can also inquire with me about either working one-on-one with you or working with your group on health and wellness, biohacking. And from there, all my socials are there, Instagram, LinkedIn, and a little bit of YouTube. I have some stuff. So if you post this on YouTube, definitely tag me as a collaborator. So that's where all of my podcast stuff is kind of happening. And of course, if you were doing any types of speaking engagements, obviously I got a hell of a wellness rant for people. So I do a lot of panels and keynotes. And again, that can also be found on LynetteAstaire.com, and feel free to reach out to me. My DMs are open.
Nice. Awesome. I love it. Thank you. This is terrific. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye, y'all.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did recording it. As always, we thank you so much for listening and watching. Today's show was recorded here in Los Angeles and produced by the incomparable Deanna Bernal in Mexico City. You know, we can only grow this show by you listening and sharing the show with friends. So please find, like, follow, subscribe, and share our audio-only show on Spotify, Apple, or via any other popular podcasting platforms, as well as find the video version of our show now available on our YouTube channel over at Entrepreneurial Thinkers. And of course, you can follow along on our various social media platforms for fun and informative clips and content at Entrepreneurial Thinkers, wherever you can find us. And if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at I Am Rob Ryan on just about any social media platform. Gracias, thank you, and have an awesome day.